5 Live Formula One.
Good evening and welcome along to Canada. We're in the land of maple leaves, moose and, for this weekend, motorsport in the form of 20 Formula One cars racing around a firm favourite, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which lies on the Ile Notre Dame, surrounded by the waters of the St Lawrence River. We've had just over a week off after another busy triple header and ready to get back to business here with round 10 of 24. Free practice 1 coming your way in just a few minutes time. Guiding you through all the action this evening is myself, Harry Benjamin, and alongside me, reigning F1 Academy champion Abby Pulling. How are you, Abby? Nice to have you back.
I'm good, thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to get into this FP1 for the Montreal Grand Prix, and
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about throughout the course of this session. We, of course, have FP2 later. We'll be doing a fully live preview show as well tonight on 5 Live from 8 o'clock. So there's plenty to chat about. But before we talk about F1, Abby, let's just get up to speed with where you're at this season. How's it going? Last time we caught up with you, I think you were just about to begin the GB3 season, or you might have done the first rounds, which seemed to go quite well.
Silverstone was amazing. First race weekend in GB3, making the step up into bigger machinery, and I think qualified P4, P6 without working DRS, which is not ideal. So was a really strong start to the year. The last few race weekends have been a bit tough since then. After having an incident at Silverstone, things haven't been quite right. But I think we've got down to the bottom of it in the end now. So looking forward to the next race in Budapest.
Whereabouts is GB3 in sort of the ladder? Can you explain that to us?
GB3 is a British Formula 3 championship essentially, and it's a step below FIF3, although the cars aren't too far off, and it's quite a big jump up from Formula 4. So it's a nice place to get familiarised with a higher downforce car and ready to potentially make the step up into the next step of the ladder, which is FIF3, which follows around the Formula 1 during the season.
Now, of course, it was F1 Academy, of course, which you championed last year, and now that's what's allowed you to continue your career going forward. They're actually racing here this weekend. They had their first practice session a little earlier. Are you a bit annoyed that they weren't in Canada when you were in the series?
Yes and no. I mean, I really enjoyed the calendar last season. We went to some incredible places, but Canada, I don't know why, I just absolutely love the track. I did a bit of coaching for one of the drivers and set a few reference laps, and I'm a bit envious. There's a lot of overtaking opportunities as well here, especially in the cars that they're in. So a little bit envious, but I wouldn't have changed last year for anything, to be honest.
No, well, we will have a bit of support action this weekend in the form of the F1 Academy cars supporting Formula One, which is already bringing in quite a large crowd ahead of practice 1. The grandstand's really filling up. Blue skies overhead with a few white puffy clouds. Air temperature, though, a little on the cooler side, 16.4 degrees air temperature. Track temperature, 40.3 degrees. We'll see if that ramps up over the course of the day. But I mean, you mentioned, Abby, this is a good track for overtaking on. It's really a mixture, isn't it, of low speed corners, kind of interrupted by some long straights.
Yeah, I mean, even the low speed corners, the chicanes, you're still barreling quite a lot of speed into there. They're not ultimately massively slow, but there is the massive straights and the DRS zones that come before or after them, which helps provide for great racing, as well as the weather here at Montreal. It's always very unpredictable and can amount for some really, really competitive, strategic and close racing.
Well, we are just seeing some cars about to head out into the pit lane, and I should say the track. They're just at the end of the pit lane getting ready to head out, and it's an interesting pit lane here. It feeds out into turn 2, so the start finish straight down towards the left-hander of turn 1, and then in an S-like shape feeds you back slightly uphill out through turn 2, over the hill, then downhill through a right-hand flick of 3, then left-hand through 4, then it slightly arcs round through 5 into the braking zone of 6, again a left-hander which curves you back through turn 7. That's the second dose of DRS that the cars will get as well, all the way to the quick kink, the right hand of 8, then the left of 9, before you end up at the hairpin, 180 degrees, a right-hander before you're spat back out through technically a corner, but in these Formula 1 cars, by the time we get to qualifying, it will be flat out of turn 11, and then it is down that over 1 kilometre long back straight, which runs adjacent to the rowing lake that was built here back in 1976 for the Summer Olympics. And then you get to that wall of champions, that perilous corner, 13 and 14, and that leads you back onto the start. Finish straight, and that completes a lap of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in time for the green lights at the end of the pit lane. You can hear that from the crowd, who are pretty pleased to see the cars heading out onto the circuit. And for those who wish to do a sync up with us, it's coming at you now. It's 59 minutes and 30 seconds remaining of FP1. The other thing about this track, Abby, I suppose, is that it's a semi-permanent track. We're on an island. It's a bit of a park as well, so you get a lot of leaves and residue falling onto the track, so it's going to make the track a little tricky in terms of these first conditions for the cars. This
is the only time of the year that the track is used. As we said, it's a street circuit and or semi-permanent, and it can be really dirty. We've had some of the support cars out this morning, but they're F1 Academy cars. They only can move so much. So as we can see already, there's some dust being kicked up by these cars, and it can actually create a bit of graining to begin with. So on the Friday here in FP1, can expect them to struggle a little bit with that, get the tyres up to temperature. It's only 16 degree air temp here, which again is another challenge in itself.
Well, straight out onto the track, they're not waiting around in the pit lane, is Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. The two McLaren drivers head out there straight away, along with the Ferrari duo 2 of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Let's just bring you up to speed with how the championship stands. After Oscar Piastri clinched the win last time out in Barcelona, he is now 10 points clear of his teammate Lando Norris at the top of the field. And with Max Verstappen and that penalty that he was given in Spain for crashing into George Russell left a lot of points on the table. He's still third in the championship, but he's now 49 points adrift from the top spot. And over in the constructors, well, McLaren pretty much have a stranglehold over that at the moment. They are nearly 200 points clear of Ferrari, who are up in second. Then it's Mercedes third, Red Bull fourth, Williams at the top 5, with Racing Bulls, Haas, Sauber jump up to 8th after Nico Hülkenberg's top 5 finish in Spain. That relegates Aston Martin and Alpine, and we've got a yellow flag out on track, and it's because Franco Colapinto has found himself facing the wrong direction on the exit of turn 2, hasn't made any contact with the wall at first view, but we'll get a replay of it. He span himself back around and is off and away again, getting a little closer look at that blue and pink Alpine, Abby. Doesn't look like he's had any damage there.
I was a bit concerned, actually. Literally cars approaching him as he's facing backwards, so a bit strange to see that. That's not something you often see. Whether that was out the pit lane or on his first push lap by the looks of it, as we go on board for the replay into turn 1, which is quite tricky, actually. You're braking to the right whilst you're turning for a left, and he's just lost the rear going around the right on acceleration. So not a good day, first lap and beginning of the day for Franco Colapinto there.
When you make a bit of a mistake like that so early as well, he's on the soft rubber too, the Red Bull tyre, a man that is under pressure as well in that seat. I mean, can you just sort of brush that off the shoulder, or will we be feeling the heat now already, only a few minutes into the first practice session?
I think, of course, there is so much pressure on Franco, but this is the first lap. He's made that mistake, so let's hope he doesn't do it again. And yeah, it's not something you want to be doing to, impress your bosses to keep the seat. But it's early days here, and as we said, it's quite a cold atmosphere here as we hear the radio of Verstappen.
It's very heavy.
Stand by. So that's Verstappen saying his steering feels very heavy, Abby, as he comes across the line and goes to the top of the times with a 1:16.0.
Yeah, I wonder what could be causing that. Maybe it's the power steering. Maybe there's an issue with his power steering system.
Well, he seems to be carrying on for the time being. We know that's what these practice sessions are for, to try and fine-tune these cars. And Verstappen, always fairly vocal on the radio. I mean, while we're on Verstappen, as this is the sound of him just making his way through the right-hander of turn 3 rather slowly now, and I imagine will either make his way back to the pits or gear up for another fast lap next time around. controversy for the Dutchman followed him after the Spanish Grand Prix with that manoeuvre on George Russell. He was penalised for it. What did you make of his actions, Abby?
To be honest, I thought it was a bit childish. I think it was... He kind of got frustrated, and you saw that, and reacted how he can sometimes.
We are monitoring the issue. We're not seeing anything from a reliability issue perspective at the moment, Max. So stay up for the moment. Stay out.
So that's what Jean-Pierre Lambiase, Max Verstappen's engineer, has said to him about the matter of the heavy steering that Verstappen reported a few moments ago.
But ultimately, with the incident that happened at Barcelona, it could have been, dangerous. It could have been a DNF for both of them if, a puncture was caused or something. So it was really silly and unnecessary, to be honest.
And it's put him on 11 penalty points as well. And all he needs to do is rack up one more penalty point and he'll receive a one-race ban. If he behaves well up until Austria, after that weekend a couple of points drop off, but it still leaves him a hefty amount to get through. I think those points, then the next points drop off isn't for a little while after that. So do you think that penalty actually was fair that he got? It was 10-second time penalty in the race, which dropped him to 10th, so he lost a big chunk of points, plus now really walking that tightrope of a race ban. Do you think that was an appropriate penalty?
Yeah, and if not, I thought maybe he would get more of a penalty, to be honest. It was quite a big thing, and it was clearly intentional, and he's acknowledged that, and he has apologised since, I believe. But he's a role model. He's a world champion, and continuing with Red Bull to try and compete at the front and go up against these incredible drivers. It's not the precedent you want to set for young drivers watching. They'll be going in their junior categories, and they look up to these people and racing drivers at the pinnacle of the sport. It's just not, in my opinion, what you want to be putting out there.
He has said in response to if he's going to change the way he drives, why should I change? So we'll see what unfolds over the course of the weekend, but that feels like a more typical Max Verstappen response that we're used to hearing. I
mean, I get his aggression. That's what he's known for, and it's really good, but this wasn't in a racing sense. This was just in a reaction, a knee-jerk reaction. And I think you need to pick and choose your moments, and yeah, that wasn't probably the correct moment and reaction from his side.
Well, three-time winner here is Max Verstappen, now looking to do what nobody has done before him and win for a fourth consecutive time around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. He'll have those two pesky McLarens, though, to overcome. So let's see how Verstappen gets on. He's currently in sixth with those heavy steering issues that he was reporting. Still out on track, though. Verstappen has just crossed the line to go to the top, so he's found that time. A 1:14.4 ahead of Albon, Tsunoda, Hadjar and Leclerc, the top five. Lance Stroll has just crossed the line and put his Aston Martin up into ninth. We welcome Lance Stroll back. Good recovery for the Canadian with a wrist injury after missing the Spanish Grand Prix, which, I mean, as a driver, Abby, that must be a really big decision to have to make, to kind of look after your own health and miss a race, but good to see him back.
Definitely, and because, with the team, it was also a big decision for them.
Yeah, just lock the rear there.
Okay, we'll look into it.
Yeah, that was Kimi Antonelli, the Mercedes, who locked up and then went wide at turn. That's through turn 6, the left-hander, but went back on his way.
Yeah, it wasn't a nice moment there. We see the drivers are struggling quite a bit, actually. The track is really, really green. There's a lot of dust being thrown up, and you can even see the lines of the dust where it's being displaced there.
This is the sound of Lando Norris coming to the line, currently beginning a lap into the braking zone of the left-hander, swings it through the right-hand side of turn 2. That's where Colapinto had his moment and span round. No such issue for the British driver, who now sits second, and does continue to remain to sit second in the Drivers' Championship. 10 points adrift from his teammate, but fastest of anybody in the first sector in these early stages.
And you can see he's a bit hesitant on the throttle pickup as well, and that just shows with an evolving track that the times will just topple the more we get on into the session, as we see taking quite a lot of curb this track at Montreal. There's a lot of curb usage. The teams will have to set up the cars to be able to withstand all of that kind of...
Ooh, a bit of a moment though at the hairpin, Abby.
Yeah, that was mid-corner as well, that would have been on brake releases. He was just picking up the throttle, didn't quite like it. As I said, the car doesn't seem to be wanting to accelerate anywhere at the moment. There's no grip on that rear axle for anyone, it looks like, out there.
Comes into the final chicane, threads the needle, the wall of champions to his right, and down the start-finish straight, so would have lost time there, ends up 6/10 down after that moment at the hairpin into 5th spot. McLaren have brought some upgrades for this race, particularly a new front wing and front suspension. Now the front wing, according to Andrew Benson, the BBC F1 correspondent, the front wing is a test item which is not expected to be used beyond Friday, but the front suspension is aimed at resolving some of the issues McLaren have had with the front end behaviour of the car, a numbness in the front axle, and as team boss Andrea Stella has put it, that's particularly affected Lando Norris this season. The suspension is available to both drivers to try before making a decision on whether to continue with it. Here is Norris.
I don't know what happened in the hairpin. Actually, I locked the race completely, so I don't feel too much. But then, when I came on throttle, something happened.
So that was Norris reporting of not quite knowing how he ended up having to steer out of the corner through the right-hand hairpin. I mean, this is good news in a way, Abby, isn't it, for Lando Norris, that they're bringing these new parts to the front end, because we know that that's where Norris has been struggling with, that feeling, having to almost adapt his driving style. That's a real tough thing to overcome as a driver when you're forced to drive around an issue.
It's not ideal for him, and it's also nice to actually see that McLaren are wanting to help him and make amendments and change the setup of how the car is and reacting to suit his driving style as well. I think that shows that they want to keep improving, and even if the two cars, they don't set them up identically, they're set for each driver and what their preferences are. And of course we've seen it's been a real strong suit of Oscar. He's really enjoyed driving this car, it looks like, this season, whereas Lando, across the years, it's been a bit different to what he's been used to, so he has had to make them adaptations to his driving. And yeah, the front end obviously has been what he's wanted a little bit more of.
Can you be friends when you're in the same team battling for a drivers' championship? This is the constant question we're asking, right, of these two, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. And so far, we haven't really seen any kind of, 2016 Rosberg Hamilton moments between them. But they're quite open with the way of. In fact, they're saying, well, we're kind of expecting it to happen at some point. It's just a matter of when, not if.
I think it's so intense, especially at the pinnacle, at the level of Formula One. It's a really intense sport, and your biggest competitor is your teammate at the end of the day. That's who you're racing against. You could be battling for P10, but as long as you're in front of your teammate, it doesn't matter. And in this case, yeah, it's the Rosberg-Lewis Hamilton situation where they're both in contention for race wins every season, and if you're the teammate finishing second, that's what's going to get you in the long run. And I think it is going to get probably a bit more emotional, a bit more intense, especially since Lando has been at the team for a long time now, and Oscar's kind of come in as a rookie and then kind of done a year or two and really found his feet and has really come into his own, and which I'm not surprised at, knowing Oscar. He is an incredible driver, and it's interesting to see how Lando's reacting to it, to be honest, and being put under this pressure. And I really enjoy inter-team rivalries, and I think, to be honest, McLaren have got a hold on it so far. It seems pretty respectful between the two of them, and I hope it stays like that for them and their kind of mentality going forward, and also the team. But also it is quite interesting sometimes in press conferences when you do have that Hamilton Rosberg situation as well.
Yeah, there's I almost as we've got a car in the wall. It's Charles Leclerc, yellow flag out, big damage for Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. That's coming through, that's the early part of the lap. It's through turns 3 and 4. Red flag out for Charles Leclerc. I think that's where it is. I have to double check on where he is on the on the map. But he says he's okay on the radio, but that is a lot of damage to the front of the car, the rear of the car. He's moving, said he's okay on the radio. And, well, the Ferrari fans in the grandstands shaking their heads, upset by that one in early stages. And Charles Leclerc, after both Ferraris, well, even Leclerc, though, ended up on the podium last time out in Spain, both cars reportedly carrying issues. Let's have a look, Abby, and see what happens. So he comes through the right-hander of turn 2, makes his way up the hill, and then approaches the right-hander of 3. Oh, he locks up, doesn't make the corner, steers out of it, goes across the grass, but then it's the front left that makes contact with the left side wall.
Yeah, that's a tricky one for him. It's a big shame because he probably would expect a bit more runoff there, but it's a peculiar one, to be honest. I saw the front left part of the car was damaged.
Sorry, I'm in the wall. Yeah, my bad. I should have gone straight. I thought I'll just make it. I hit the wall.
Yeah, that's a big disappointment for Charles. There is a runoff, what he was saying there. So he locked up and he had the opportunity to potentially make that decision to go straight on, but committed to trying to go for the corner and just hit the wall in between. So disappointment there for him. That's his FP1 finished for today.
Look, it feels like a bit of a... Well, it is a driver error, I think. Locks the front right. And, well, loses a bit of control over the grass. And I have to say that wall, it feels like it's been brought in slightly more than previous, because all of a sudden, his entire front left, rear left wheel and tyre, suspension, the wishbones just gets absolutely obliterated by the wall, and that spears him out back onto the circuit.
I mean, it is tight, but on the track walk, you know, as a driver, these are the things that you should notice. And if you do have a lockup in a corner like this, you should know that you need to bail out of it and go straight on. It feels a little bit clumsy, and he acknowledged that on the radio, that he had the opportunity to bail out and just didn't. And that's, made his day done a little bit for this session.
Well, that has brought out the red flag for Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, who now finds himself out of this session, having set the fastest lap time as well with a 1:13.885. Leclerc out of the car, walking away, his helmet just resting at the top of his head as well, half off, as he walks back to the garage and waits for a lift back to the garage. The clock continues to count down during practice, so it's 42 minutes and 36, 35, 34 seconds remaining of FP1, but everybody back in the garage. Leclerc quickest, a tenth ahead of George Russell. Then comes Norris, Verstappen, Hadjar the top 5, Albon, Tsunoda, Sainz, Gasly and Alonso the top 10, Lawson, Hamilton, Antonelli, Stroll, Behrman the top 15, with Ocon, Hülkenberg, Colapinto, Bortoletto 19th, and Oscar Piastri actually no competitive lap time on the board, though he has been out there and done 4 laps. So everybody now back in the pits while we await the recovery of Charles Leclerc's car. Let's talk Ferrari, shall we, Abby? While one gets craned away, Lewis Hamilton down in 12th at the moment. Hamilton said at the end of the Spanish Grand Prix last time out that was probably one of his harder races that he's ever had to drive. It's been a struggle this year for him, and adapting to Ferrari, and I just wonder how you view it all as a driver as well, with Hamilton coming into a new team and those new surroundings and the pressure that the media bring on top of that.
I think it has looked challenging for him, and he's really passionate and really wants to do the Ferrari name justice. You can tell he's really putting his all into it, and I mean, I know how it feels when you put your all into everything, you don't get the results. So I wouldn't count him out just yet. I think you have to give people a year in a new car, as if the form continues throughout kind of the next couple of years, where it will get concerning. But yeah, I mean, I'm a Hamilton fan, so I feel like you can't write him off just yet.
Could go well here, though, for Hamilton. Good form here first pole here, first race win here. He's won here the most amount of times, joint with Michael Schumacher at 7. There's something about Lewis Hamilton at Canada that just seems to go rather well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no doubt that he's probably feeling that confidence as well as he did in Shanghai, close to the start of the season. But yeah, we'll see how the Ferrari is around this circuit. Of course, Charles, before his incident, was at the top of this practice session, so we'll just have to wait and see how the weekend unfolds. Yeah,
Ferrari didn't have the best weekend here, has to be said, last year. Both qualifying outside the top 10, and then I think it was a double DNF for both of them, Sainz and Leclerc last year, so it wasn't quite to be on that occasion, and so far it's not started off well for Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, hitting the wall at turn 3, and that will be his session done and dusted, having just set the fastest lap time of 1:13.885. While we await for more track action to come out, I'm springing this upon you and upon Abby as well. We'll do a Ask Abby Pulling Anything. You can get in touch with us on hashtag BBC F1, or you can email us now, f1@bbc.co.uk, and we await your messages. I'm not in charge of what makes it to air. That's producer Joe's decision to make, so it's not my fault if we don't read out those messages. But ask Abby anything, and she will endeavour to ask those questions.
I quite enjoyed this last time.
Yeah, we did last time. I thought we did something similar.
Yeah, we did it last time. It was nice to get the listeners involved, for sure.
Absolutely. Before all this kicked off with Charles Leclerc, we are just seeing or hearing first.
Man, oh my God, what is this guy doing?
Well, that's Gabriel Bortoleto on a really fast lap, and first of all making his way down towards the hairpin out of turns 8 and 9, and it was Alex Albon who then suddenly moved to the right, trying to get out of Bortoleto's way.
I tried to do the right thing there. I tried to give it the race away.
But it was a bit too late, that move, and Bortoleto with razor-sharp reactions, just avoiding a crash there. And the first car he passed was Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari, nipped by him, went to the right. Albon was on the racing line, then also moved to the right, but that's where Bortoleto's car was. Thankfully, they all made it through unscathed, but I think that would have rather raised the heart rate of Gabriel Bortoleto slightly.
It wasn't the easiest situation, to be honest, as Hamilton was going slowly as well, and they were on either side of the track, and it just... Alex really tried to do what he could in his defence, and as he said, gave Gabriel the racing line, but yeah, he chose to overtake Hamilton on the opposite side. Yeah, I think Alex did what he could there.
Well, they all live to fight another day on that one. Session will resume, by the way, at 1:53, so in less than a minute's time on that one. We will get this session back underway. Crucial for all of the now 19 remaining drivers to get some track action.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of put a damper in the works having that incident, but I'm sure everyone will be ready to hit the track, doing a little debrief with their team, looking at some of the data from what's just happened, the first 20 minutes of the session, and as we go and see George Russell ready in the pit lane, ready and waiting to go to the get on the track.
We've had our first question come in on hashtag BBC F1. Owen has said, with Bortoleto and Alonso sharing track space, now Bortoleto is managed by Fernando Alonso and his management stable. To Abby, was there any rules of engagement between you and Alice Powell when you were in the W Series?
Oh, as in like we couldn't
race together? Or now I may be dredging up old wounds here, but was there not a bit of an incident once between you two?
Oh no, I hope she's not listening. Yeah, I know exactly what incident you're talking about. No, I think it would be strange for them racing each other on track, but also they'd probably really enjoy it as well as me and Alice did. But yeah, there was an incident at Silverstone. I feel like I've got to explain it now.
Absolutely, yeah.
I feel like I'm going red in the box.
It's all right, we're radio, no one can see you, it's fine.
But Alice didn't start the race, or had no voltage in her battery. Went to get going. This is home Grand Prix as well as Silverstone. And everyone drove off. We're going around, still no Alice, waiting for her. And I was actually, she always gets mad at me for this, but I was leaving way more than 10 car lengths. Like in the regulations, you've got to leave a certain amount of distance. I was well over that, trying to give her time to catch up. And yeah, we got to the safety car line and she wasn't past me. Like literally like a car length in it, didn't pass me at the right time, so I had a drive-through penalty. I've actually have heard the end of it, but I feel like I've not heard the end of it now.
But apart from that one, there wasn't anything else. And after that, did you ever have a sit down and go, right, Abby, okay, come on, I'm your manager. You can't be doing that.
No, I don't. No, we didn't. I mean, of course, it was infuriating for her, but there was nothing really I could have done. I did, like at the end of the day, I did do what I could, and I was out of the legal limit of where we should have been. So,
question coming from A. Powell, who's saying Abby is talking absolute rubbish. I'm joking. That has not come in. We know Alice is working hard doing the F1 Academy commentary this weekend, I think. But no specific rules of engagement then, just the usual one between two races on the track.
I think that's just it. It's, as you would with teammates, just be a bit more respectful of each other. That was more so what we had. If there was a situation where she was fighting for the championship and I was maybe a bit more lenient with her in my mirrors than if it was someone else. But yeah, other than that, I think we were pretty fair. I feel like we were never really too close together on track.
Well, you were always way ahead.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right, we'll leave that one there, shall we? Cars back on track, as you can hear too. So green flag running. Oscar Piastri just about to complete his first competitive lap time and puts himself only up into 14th to start with. Immediately backs off to allow the Mercedes of George Russell through. It's 33 minutes and 56, 55, 54 seconds remain. It's Leclerc fastest, but now out of this session after crashing his Ferrari at turn 3. Russell is second, a 10th adrift. Then it's Norris, Verstappen, Hadjar's up there once again in the top 5. Still early stages though. This is the sound of George Russell making his way to the left-hander of turn 6, and actually, like his teammate, really struggling with the rear stability on that Mercedes and has to take to the grass and cut the corner.
It's not looking too nice out there, especially that turn 6. There's actually, on the white line on entry, you kind of open up the track a little bit extra, and it just seems to not be cleared as you go on board with Lando Norris. Doing a similar thing in turn 13, actually, having to take to the grass after having a little excursion. On initial turn-in, it looked like the rear stepped out, actually, so everyone out there seems to be struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, mowing the lawn for many of them. The track still dusty as well in places, despite a bit of support action already out onto the circuit, but after FP1 this will clean it up nicely. Lewis Hamilton's just gearing up for a lap as well. By the way, Pirelli bringing this softest compound of tyre once again this weekend. It's the softest in the range, so the hard is the C4, the medium is the C5, and the soft is the C6. Once again was the talk of the town in Imola and in Monaco, but now the teams with a lot of info on that C6 tyre, so we'll see how that plays out. Intermediates and wets also available, although my last check of the weather radar was that I don't think we're actually going to get much weather interruption this weekend as we did last time, but we'll monitor that to see if it changes, as we'll get a look and a sound at what happened to Lewis Hamilton a few moments ago, coming into the hairpin, down through the gears into the right-hander, and round he goes as the rear end slips on him.
Yeah, similar thing to what we saw Lando do, but a full 180 there from Lewis. Yeah, everyone just seems to be struggling with that grip into on entry of the corners with that rear end. It just doesn't seem to be sticking. I assume in FP2 it will be a bit more comfortable for the drivers.
Mentioned Isaac Hadjar a few moments ago. He's actually just been knocked down to 6th on the medium tyre, it should be said. Everybody else on the soft. As Sainz in the Williams puts himself up into 4th. And off the back of Nulla on #BBCF1 and their question on should Hadjar accept the poison chalice of the second Red Bull if it is offered. First of all, your thoughts on that, Abby. Second of all, your overall thoughts on Isaac Hadjar, which I think a lot of the drivers in the paddock have said this weekend that he's really been the standout rookie of the year so far.
It is a tough one because his form in the Racing Bull, I mean, the V car, why would he want to change seats? You know, he's been able to be in the top 10 the last 3 races and in the triple header. I mean, you want to race for the front running team and go up against Verstappen, sure, but it just doesn't seem that appealing as it did a couple of years ago, to be honest.
Well, I would agree with you. My understanding is that the 4 drivers that are spread across the 2 teams that Red Bull run are employed, they're contractors with Red Bull. So really, it's up to the team to place them in which team they are. The Racing Bull certainly seems more driver friendly, I think it's fair to say. I mean, look at when Tsunoda was part of the Racing Bulls team. Well, he was qualifying up inside the top 10 and scoring points, and then immediately he goes to that second team and now doesn't score any points anymore, and he qualified last in Spain without really any major issues as a contributing factor. So there clearly is a drivability issue going on here between the 2 cars as well. And for Hadjar, I think he's come out and said, "Oh, I don't feel ready yet. I don't want to step up," because he's only 9 races down in his Formula 1 career.
I think that's quite a wise sentence to come out of his mouth, to be honest. I mean, I have to agree with him. I think the step up is quite risky, and yeah, as we've seen, Yuki is struggling with that, and when he's so comfortably in front of his teammate, who, you know, I think Liam has done a really good job in his first kind of few races and showed that he deserves to be on the grid in previous years where he's jumped in and out, and if you're comfortably beating, you know, a great driver, then why change it?
Well, let's see. This is the sound of Yuki Tsunoda down in the middle sector compared to his teammate Max Verstappen with the DRS touching 300 kilometers an hour before he slams on the brakes into the final chicane. The wall of champions to his right, steers clear of that wall, crosses the line, doesn't improve his time. Still 7/10 down on teammate Verstappen. The 2 Red Bulls bookending the top 10. George Russell's on a quick lap though, fastest of anybody in the middle sector. Sainz has ramped it up too, fastest of anybody in the first sector. Into the final chicane for George Russell. Oh, so close to the wall, brushing the shrubbery that's fed through the catch fencing, and now he goes to the top of the timings with a 1:13.5.
Yeah, really great lap there for George, but Carlos Sainz actually looking quite racy as well, with a purple sector 1 and a green sector 2. George messed up the last chicane. You could see he went a little bit wide, and it looks like Carlos did a similar thing, not improving his lap time, losing quite a bit in that last sector. So it's proving to be difficult for everyone. We didn't see where it was for Carlos, maybe in the hairpin, as we see a replay from Nico Hülkenberg, I think, brushing the wall of champions.
This will be the sound of it. Hasn't touched the podium, Nico Hülkenberg, in his entire career. Did touch the wall of champions though there, but lived to fight another day.
Just a little bit too much curb. I think he didn't quite tap it there.
It says, there's a graphic that says he was 4 centimetres away, but that rear right...
yeah, that hit the wall. That definitely hit the wall. No,
not having that hit the wall.
Yeah, I think we need to have a little word with whoever's making these graphics.
Well, we don't have control over that. That's why, good thing we're radio. Coming in from the email, f1@bbc.co.uk. Question for Abby from Izzy, also with an I. Abby with an I, Izzy with an I. If you could race any circuit on the current F1 calendar, which one would you choose?
Ooh, I don't know whether to go one that I've not done before, one that I have done before. One that I have done before, Singapore. I would love to go back there The
humidity, worth it?
Yeah, for sure. The circuit is unreal. It is a proper raw street circuit, very bumpy. You've got to raise your car massively because it's so undulating, and you know, it's literally used in the daytime. So atmosphere, awesome. I'm trying to think, maybe Australia, one that I haven't done before. I think Australia is always quite a cool one. I really like the layout, and of course on all the F1 games, it's always the first one you do. So.
Yeah, and well, what about Madrid and this new street circuit that's going to come onto the calendar next year? raise your eyebrows at that? Any interested?
I mean, I've not seen the layout, but if it's anything like the old Valencian circuit that they used to have, yeah, definitely would be all for it. I mean, I've not raced on the Valencia street circuit myself, but name dropping Alice again, she has, and I've only heard really great things about it. So yeah, maybe if it can be that one, then for sure.
Well, good question, Izzy, because the 2026 calendar coming into this weekend has been officially announced, with Madrid making its debut as Imola drops off the calendar. Canada is actually going to move as well. It's going to follow Miami. It now clashes with the Indy 500, which a lot of people aren't happier with, but to help with the sustainability and the grouping of locations that we visit, Canada will now follow Miami. Barcelona remains on the calendar, will finish its contract off. That will clash with Le Mans, as we are clashing with Le Mans this weekend actually too. It's going to be the last year of the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, and what they've also done is we are going to still have a couple of triple headers, but not till the end of the season. So there's going to be Austin, Mexico, Brazil as a triple header, then a break, then Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi to finish off the season. Do you think that's quite a good move, Abby? Because I mean, we've just come off the back of the European triple header, and that's pretty tiring for us. But when you're also racing in the car, to adapt to different time zones, to mentally as well, if you have one bad race to try and reset yourself, that must be quite tricky.
Yeah, I think localising the triple headers helps the drivers out a lot, and also the teams. We always talk about how hard it is on the drivers, but the teams, they're flying out economy everywhere, and they don't get too much sleep. They're constantly working on the cars, although they have the curfew, which helps a little bit. But it is really intensive for everyone involved, and yeah, making it closer to similar time zones is really helpful for them, and also economically as well. It's great to see that they're taking that into account, and it's quite, I mean, I think triple headers are always quite fun and quite entertaining for the fans as well, with the non-stop action, but it can get grueling. So also putting it later in the season, I think, gives the drivers, and if there is any more rookies, some time to kind of ease into the season.
I know, I agree, but I think that'll be a nice, still not perfect, I think, the calendar, but certainly moving in the right direction in terms of getting there, isn't it? 23 minutes and 30 seconds remain. Verstappen's on a quick lap, fastest of anybody in the first sector, up on time on his own personal best in the middle sector. It's Russell who tops the time still. He's 3/10 clear at the moment of Max Verstappen. Leclerc third, but now out of this session after crashing. Then comes Albon. Tsunoda has found a bit of time and got himself up into fifth. Gasly's just put his Alpine into sixth, make that seventh, as Carlos Sainz to the top of the times with a 1:13.2. Let's see if his old teammate will ruin his day. Crosses the line, and he does so, but it's not by much, less than a tenth, separating Max Verstappen now top of the times, and Carlos Sainz in the Williams. Williams, well, renowned for their straight line speed for a lot of the time, but now actually maybe Spain was a tough weekend for them, both cars. Albon retiring, Sainz not scoring points, but overall, Williams have built a really good package this year, it seems.
Yeah, over the years they've just constantly been improving, and this seems to be their best year yet. The first couple of rounds scoring the most amount of points they have in a while.
Space.
That was Verstappen, who felt he was rather squeezed by Lewis Hamilton on the exit of turn 9. What did you make of that one, Abby? So coming out of turn 9, Verstappen on the racing line, and then actually had to dip a wheel onto the grass. Hamilton kind of in the middle of the road. Yeah,
from the head-on view, it looked like a bigger gap than I think it did from the rear view, as we see Alonso locking his front right into the hairpin. But yeah, not a whole lot of space given from Lewis. I think he could have been a bit more generous, to be honest.
Well, they both continue round. Hamilton down in fourth at the moment. A couple more questions that have come in. One from Chris, actually, and this sort of explains, we're talking about your GP3 championship that you're currently racing in, Abby. Chris would like to know why didn't you make the step to Formula 3, the one we know, the European one? What's the stumbling block there to see a woman racing in that category from F1 Academy? Is that doable? Is it possible?
I don't think it's a stumbling block. I just think for myself and for the people around me that were helping kind of make that decision, as it wasn't 100% in my hands, as it's the prize for winning the F1 Academy season. I think it was the best decision to go into GB3, as it's the kind of foundation of where you can learn things. You go to some Grand Prix circuits, so the next one is Budapest, so potentially if you make the step up you'll be racing there. But I think not to rush things and ease into it. And I mean, it's a big jump going from F1 Academy or an F4 series into GB3 and FIF3, so having a year to learn, and who knows, if the rest of the season goes well, might make the step up into FIF3.
I suppose it puts you back into mixed racing as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and it's as I said, I think it's a really great place to understand downforce, learn that the tyres are quite big, and tyre management, and on the Pirelli that they have, and it's I mean, I'm really enjoying myself, and I'm almost sad that it feels like the year is ending. I've done 3 race weekends, and I just want more. I've got 5 race weekends left, but I don't have any gripes with it. I think I want to be ready if I make that step up into FIF3, and this is great to give me that experience. Yeah, and what an opportunity as well to get it, and F1 Academy helping you with it. Alonso on the radio.
What Albon is doing this session is, out of 2 is,
Alonso on a quick lap there coming out of turn 2, found himself a Williams in his sights, which got out of the way, I think rather a bit too late for Alonso's liking on that front. Speaking of Albon, he's just popped himself up into second, the 2 Williams cars, second and third, nothing between them. That's 6,000ths of a second, 600ths of a second separating the 2 Williams. It's Verstappen, then Albon, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, the top 5. Leclerc is 6th, Tsunoda's in 7th, Gasly, Hadjar, Norris is 10th. Then comes Lawson, Antonelli, Alonso, Bortoletto. Piastri's still down in 15th, but a reminder, they are trialling new parts this weekend, only on the Friday, between their front wing and front suspension. So a bit of Flovis on the rear end actually as well for Oscar Piastri, down in 15th. Behrman, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Stroll and Colapinto, the 20 drivers. Only 19 left in this session, with Charles Leclerc hitting the wall and bringing his session to an early close.
I think with the traffic around here, it's a track where there is quite a lot of blind corners, especially on the exit of the chicanes like 8, 9 and 3, 4. It is quite blind, and I think the drivers do have to get well out of the way in them areas, as we've seen Albon a few times kind of in the middle of the track. It can lead to consequences of big incidents, so yeah, maybe a bit more on it with that from some of the drivers. 17
minutes 45 44 43 seconds remain. Verstappen comes into the pits after his run, along with Sainz, Russell, Hamilton and Bortoletto, and the other Sauber of Hülkenberg all currently in the pits. Lando Norris lining up to do a practice start. On the emails, f1@bbc.co.uk from Chris. Hello. This question comes from Chris in Bournemouth, Dorset. Has there ever been a British podium 1, 2, 3? If not, when was the closest? Now that seems a bit harsh to ask you, Abby. Off the top of my head, I think, was it 1968 US Grand Prix? I think that was it, Watkins Glen. Penultimate race of the 1968 season, sorry. I think the race was won by Jackie Stewart, with the world champion of that year, would have been Graham Hill, came second. And then John Surtees rounded out the top 3. I think if memory serves me well on that front, I think that's what happened. I'm sure BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure on that one.
I want you on my team for trivia night.
You don't want me, you want producer Joe. That's who you want on your team. But hopefully that answers your question, Chris. Thank you very much for getting in touch on the email. Hashtag BBCF1 as well. Abby, do you think the Netflix documentary on F1 Academy that is out recently, I'm 2 episodes down, by the way, that was my prep coming into here for today, FT Sport has asked, will that have a similar effect on Drive to Survive? Are you feeling any kind of effect off the back of it?
I think so. It is definitely. I mean, I'm having people. I was actually at the Queen's tennis the other day, and someone walked up to me and was like, I've watched you on Netflix. It was I was very awkward. But I don't watch Formula One. I haven't watched it, but I know you because I've watched F1 Academies or F1 The Academy on Netflix. So I thought that was. I think that kind of says enough. Really, it's doing its job, and more and more people are watching it that don't normally watch racing, which is really nice. And I'm seeing, on my socials, there's people, I'm getting so many DMs, I can't reply to them all, of people saying, I absolutely loved you on the Netflix show.
Well, top tip, if you want to reply from Abby Pilling, just ask a question on hashtag BBCF1 and we'll get it answered.
It is the best way to get in touch with me. I'm awful at replying, so... That,
or we've got to go through Alice Powell, one or the other.
She'll be getting loads of DMs.
Yeah, but it's a very fair point. I mean, much like Netflix did for Drive to Survive, did for Formula One, and we're seeing the effects of that every day, and year on year. It's brilliant to see that happening for F1 Academy in a way that's part of what the championship is there for, right? It's to shine a spotlight on the characters that come out of it to help you in your career, and whether that's racing onwards, but it also provides maybe other opportunities off the back of that too for young female racers who are trying to make their way in this sport, which costs a lot of money.
Well, exactly, and I think it's for women's sport as a whole, it can only be a positive. And I mean, it's no secret that motorsport is one of the hardest things when it comes to financing the junior categories. So having this spotlight on it and having the kind of boom in eyes and followers on it is only a positive to help us girls try and get the financial support from companies and wanting to show that females can compete at a really high level.
Well, it's good to see. Thank you for your question as well. Coming out, I look forward to watching episode 3. Try and fit that in before FP3, maybe tomorrow.
It's a sad one.
No spoilers, please. I don't want to know what happens. No spoilers.
I can't watch it because I cry. So.
We've just seen Lando Norris, by the way, going deep at turn 1, having to cut across the Pirelli branding there. And cut the corner, rejoins into turn 2, carrying a bit too much speed there. A lot of flow-vis on the front right of Lando Norris's car. There was a lot of flow-vis on his teammates on the rear right, as they are running a new front wing and suspension as well on that car for today only, to see if they want to continue with it. That might explain why we're seeing them a little lower down in the order than we would be used to. Norris currently 13th, Oscar Piastri down in 16th. Ollie Bearman is about to come across the line, the British rookie, one of 6 rookies who have not had any running here before. He's hasn't improved on his last lap time, around 17th. He'll join Liam Lawson, Franco Colapinto, Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Bortoletto and Kimi Antonelli as the rookies who have not had any action here.
Can you find me some clear track, please? Copy.
Oscar Piastri wanting some clear track so he's not disturbed by any other cars to maybe get a lap time in. His teammate Norris is out there again, making his way through turn 7. Just see where Oscar Piastri is on track at the moment. He's making his way down the start finish straight, so he's coming out of the pit lane, sorry I should say, feeding into turn 2. He's got a bit of clear track until Esteban Ocon, but then there's a bit of a gaggle of cars. Difficult actually to find yourself a bit of clear track around this circuit. It's a semi-permanent street track really, isn't it? Although it's not, doesn't feel like it's got the confines of Monaco, but at parts it is tight and twisty here.
Definitely. I mean, the chicanes and how the curves are, it makes them really tight and the curb ride is something that's really important here, and it can easily spit you off if you get it wrong. And that's the beauty of Montreal, and obviously the iconic Wall of Champions on the exit. All of the exits are pretty tight here, so it adds that little bit extra kind of jeopardy every time you kind of are chasing the throttle.
Norris completes his lap, only goes up one position to 12th though, so about 7/10 or nearly 8/10 down on the quickest lap time, which is Max Verstappen with 11 minutes and 18 seconds remain of this FP1 session. Verstappen ahead of Albon, less than half a tenth of a second separate them. Then comes Carlos Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, the top five, Hadjar and Lawson. The two Racing Bulls are up there in the early stages, 6th and 7th, ahead of Pierre Gasly's Alpine. Charles Leclerc is 9th, and out of this session after crashing into the wall, Yuki Tsunoda, who celebrates his 100th race this weekend. The Japanese driver in 10th, ahead of Fernando Alonso. Then it's Stroll. It's not Stroll, it's Norris. Then it's Antonelli. Then Stroll in 14th. Gabriel Bortoleto, the top 15, ahead still of Oscar Piastri. He's back out on track and trying to find some clear space, which he's got a little bit of at the moment, just making his way now through turns 3 and 4. The next car ahead of him is Franco Colapinto, who's making his way towards turn 8 now. So he's got about the distance of the straight between 7 and 8 between him and a car, which is now Stroll. Colapinto's on a quick lap, Stroll going slowly. So let's see if Piastri gets his wish of a mostly clean lap. It's a personal best from the Australian, who leads the championship in sector 1, but then he's half a second down in sector 2 and then catches Stroll right on the exit of the hairpin. Gets nicely out of the way though, does Lance Stroll, and now it's just that strip down towards the final chicane for Oscar Piastri.
It is a really long run down here, and of course it's one of the DRS zones for when we get racing, but pretty tidy through the last chicane. No excessive curb usage pinging him out, but a second off Max's lap there. Not looking too strong so far from the McLarens.
No, see, it's always difficult to judge FP1, isn't it? But I suspect it's due to work being done for their upgrades, but also they do have a habit of not quite wanting to always show the advantage they have. Low speed corners, long straights, you think that would be McLaren bread and butter right now. Did Piastri make a mistake though, coming through turns 3 and turn 6 I should say, climbed the curb, and that sent the rear out of order.
Yeah, just on throttle pickup whilst the car was unloaded, because it was on the curb, just wasn't quite happy, wasn't settled, and yeah, had a little bit of a moment.
Managed to carry on with his day, but lost time in that middle sector. Kimi Antonelli out there at the moment, down in 13. He's had a really rough triple header. No points, retirements as well. How can you recover from, I suppose, what was a real high for him after the Miami weekend? Youngest ever pole sitter in any Formula One format, and really felt like he had arrived almost. And then to have a really tough few races in a row, how does he rebuild after that?
I think it's always hard as well in a triple header to get your rhythm back. It's not easy going race weekend to race weekend, and if there's something in particular that he's struggling with, you've got not a lot of time to really try and remedy that. So but I think for him now, he's just got to have a mental reset and kind of go again. He's had a little bit of time in between with the race team to go back to base and really kind of diagnose what's been happening. And yeah, I've no doubt in him. He had, like you say, a really great start to the season, and is a really impressive rookie. So I think every driver can have these periods of time where they're struggling, but how you bounce back is what's more impressive and important to me.
Yeah, exactly. Norris, just getting a look at him, more struggles in the hairpin. This is the sound of Lando Norris from a few moments ago, into the braking zone, turns it in, and that rear just stepping out on him, has to really get out of the corner. Carbon copy really to what happened to him at the start of the session. has to almost straighten the car up, so he's about to go into the wall before he can finally turn it into the right-hander.
It's almost as if the rear was overtaking him there. Yeah, he's struggling to load it up at all in that slow-speed corner. So, yeah, definitely looks like there'll probably be a change going into the next session to try and get rid of that imbalance that they have.
Just under 7 minutes left of the session. And I've lost the question now. Oh, here it is. Kieran, hashtag BBC F1. Abby, have you tested an Alpine F1 car before? You have, haven't you? You've been in one of the old, was it the 2012 one with the step nose?
Yes. Yes, I've driven the car 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
First time was in Saudi Arabia. I remember because it was my birthday on the flight.
What a birthday.
Yeah, it was a good birthday present. But yeah, in Saudi Arabia, obviously women hadn't been able to drive on the road for very long. I think they were able to have a license since 2018. So kind of a strong messaging behind it, which is incredible for your first time driving an F1 car, having something so impactful behind it. Then another time was around Silverstone Stowe. So the infield track, not the full circuit for a TV show. And then a third time, I don't think anyone actually knows about, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about it.
BBC exclusive. That's all right, Abby, it's fine.
But I was doing passenger laps at Paul Ricard in a World Series, actually. So there's a 2-seater World Series they have. And yeah, at the end of the day, I had a little sneaky go in the F1 car, new bags, got a few hot laps, and it was fun to actually put the car on its limit. We're going around Saudi, we were on the streets that were quite dusty, and then the Silverstone Stowe actually rained, so probably wasn't the best time to go out and try and be a hero.
What was that moment like though, when you get in the Paul Ricard run out, where you can put your foot to the floor and experience a Formula One car, the sound, the smell of it all?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a proper test. It was just kind of jumping in and for a couple of laps, like, here you go, you can have a little bit of a play, which is quite cool, to be honest, to be able to say that. But absolutely incredible. I mean, there's a certain corner on the track, and I was like, is it a lift? Is it this? Is it that? Before I went out, looked at no data, and they were like, it's flat. So I was like, okay, well, lap 1, I've got to go do it flat, haven't I? And to feel that, going around a corner that fast, using the downforce, and just being thrown kind of side to side was so cool.
What an experience that is. Well, hopefully that will be not the last, in what I'm sure will be some more opportunities coming your way. But out on the track in these last 4 minutes and 7 seconds remaining. Lando Norris just had another bit of a moment at the hairpin, still really struggling to get it turned in there for that McLaren. So they continue to try and evaluate some new upgrades on that car, and generally dealing with the dust and the bits of, there's lots of pollen and shrubbery that gets mixed up in the air and onto the track, as certain parts of it, certainly as the cars are making their way through turn 7 towards 8 and under the trees out of turn 4 in the right hand arc of turn 5. There's a lot of maple trees, oak trees and conifer trees that surround this Gilles Villeneuve circuit, so it has a habit of getting dirty, especially when you go offline. No sign of any groundhogs yet, thankfully. You read my mind, Abby. No sound. There's no sign of any. No yellow flags because of them. So far, maybe they finally learned that when the cars are on the track, they stay hidden. I'm
actually almost glad. I love having a little kind of sea of the groundhogs, but also I'm like, just stay where you are, like, be safe, look left before you cross the road, and so on and so forth.
Normally I think is it Gary the groundhog that's usually the prolific offender around these parts. I remember I did a track, I didn't do a track run, I walked the track at a relatively fast pace a couple of years ago at this circuit, and it was my first time there, and I was amazed to see they literally are just pottering about. It's their back garden. I mean, I obviously have a few friends that are trackside this weekend, and the amount of groundhogs that they've been sending me on my phone and that are on the track on their track walks, it's actually insane. Like, they're just everywhere. I did a bit of research and found that there is a few subsets of groundhog, but the only species native to North America is the Marmota monax groundhog. Did you know that?
I didn't even know that there were subspecies of it. I just thought groundhogs were groundhogs.
So if you want more of that, you can tune into our live preview show on 5 Live at 8 o'clock this evening, because there'll be some top quality groundhog chat, I can tell you that for nothing. Last couple of minutes then left of FP1. Max Verstappen's back out there on an outlap. In fact, everybody is out there, bar Charles Leclerc, whose Ferrari crashed in the early stages into turn 3. A mistake from the driver, which sees him out of this session, and a bit of a rebuild job for Ferrari in between now and FP2 to get him back out again. We'll be here for FP2, by the way, from 5 to 10 this evening on 5 Sports Extra. You could join us for that. But a minute and a half left of this session. Verstappen heads Albon and Sainz, the two Williams looking strong early doors. So we haven't actually spoken much about Sauber, because we never normally do, to be honest. But Sauber at the moment are down in 16th and 20th as they are continuing their transition to Audi next year. But what a result for Nico Hülkenberg last time out. While P5 on the road might not have been exactly where the car is, but a points finish was on the cards regardless of what he did in Spain. It looked really strong, and it was good to see them take a step forward.
Yeah, really great, and it's been a tough couple of years for them. So to see Nico, especially with he's longing for that first podium, but I think everyone was just happy to see him have such a great result, and obviously using all of his experience to get as much out of that Sauber as he could.
Yeah, and Gabriel Bortoleto, his rookie teammate, with his best qualifying and best race results so far last time out in Spain, just missed out on the points in 12th place. But Bortoleto currently was out on a lap, went back into the pits and then went back out again as the two McLarens continue round with Flovis paint adorned on the rear right wing of Oscar Piastri, who hasn't really been chasing lap times in this session. He's down in 14th, but he's certainly getting on better with the hairpin at turn 10 than his teammate Lando Norris has been, although Norris is up there in 7th, but still, by McLaren standards, a bit of a way off, almost half a second down, as the checkered flag has come out for the end of FP1. We'll see off Piastri's lap, past the wall of champions, named as such after, what was it? How many champions went into the wall? 3, back in 1999. Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve, all in the same weekend, found the wall there, and it was known as the Wall of Champions ever since. But taking the checkered flag there, Piastri stays down in 14th. Max Verstappen then, quickest at the end of the first hour of running. So, difficult to get too many learnings from the first session, isn't it, Abby, though?
Yeah, I think with the track condition, there's not too much that we can really read into, and the true performance of the teams and the drivers so far. But it is nice to see the Williams doing so well with Alex and Carlos being P2 and 3. Let's see if they can maintain that throughout the weekend. As we said, they're good in a straight line normally, so a track like this should suit them. But McLaren, struggling a lot. I don't think showing their true speed.
No, we can see what they have for FP2 a little later on. But at the end of the first bit of track running here in Canada, Montreal, at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, it's Verstappen on top. The two Williams cars looking strong. Albon ahead of Sainz, Russell 4th, Hamilton the top 5. Isaac Hadjar continues to impress, 6th for the Racing Bulls driver. Lando Norris is 7th. Liam Lawson also up there in 8th, ahead of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. Charles Leclerc, despite crashing, still held on to a top 10 lap time. Yuki Tsunoda, with more time to find, down in 11th, ahead of Fernando Alonso in 12th. Kimi Antonelli 13th. Oscar Piastri in 14th. Lance Stroll on his return to Formula One, having only missed one race, but after his wrist injury has recovered, down in 15th. Bortoleto is 16th. Oliver Behrman 17th, ahead of his teammate Esteban Ocon. Haas actually celebrating 200 races this weekend. They'll become the second team in history to reach 200 without a podium, which is not really the stat I think they wanted, but it does showcase that when we had some new teams last come in back in 2010, well, they fell by the wayside. Haas have stood the test of time, and we'll see what the new team next year, Cadillac, brings as well when they arrive. Franco Colapinto had an early spin, but for the rest of the session was fairly neat and tidy, down in 19th, and Nico Hülkenberg 20th and last, as we get some practice starts done for the end of this session. What normally happens, Abby, when you've finished a practice session and you go into a debrief room ahead of your, could be another practice session or a qualifying? What's the first thing you're doing? Diving into the data, having a drink?
For me, instantly I go into what the car's feeling underneath me, because you want to get that on the paper as soon as possible, just so it's all fresh and ready and you don't get anything wrong, essentially. On the brake bleed, how the car's reacting for a lot of these drivers, I think that will be a big thing, as they've been struggling a lot with the rear end entering some of the corners. But whether the front axle is kind of having that bite that you expect it to have, or if it's washing out, whether it's on throttle pickup and so on and so forth, and what's happening in that regard, or even if there's any teething issues like the downshifts, particularly frustrating, not engaging, or it's quite aggressive, anything like that, ready for the next session to iron it out.
Trying to dial down some of that heavy steering that Max Verstappen was talking about at the beginning of the session. So lots to dial into then in between now and FP2. Thank you as well for all your questions that came in on the email, f1@bbc.co.uk, or on the hashtag #BBCF1. General questions or an Ask Abby Pulling anything. If we didn't get to yours, or if you've got any more, we still have a whole other practice session to do. So Abby's really looking forward to that one. That'll be coming up a little later on this evening. You can hear FP2. We'll be on air from 9:55 ahead of that session starting at 10 o'clock. But for now, thank you very much, Abby Pulling. You can also hear us preview the weekend in full live on 5 Live from 8 o'clock this evening. Jenny Gow and Andrew Benson will be joining myself and Abby Pulling for that one. So we hope to see you then. But for those listening on Sports Extra 2, we can now hand you over to live ball-by-ball cricket commentary. Gloucestershire versus Somerset at the T20 Blast. Over to you.